Let's get going. It's 5 after. First, I guess I have to start with an apology. The meeting somehow is, Zoom meeting is somehow gotten set up to have people in the waiting room and then join. Hopefully by next week, I'll make the changes necessary so you can automatically join without having somebody admit you into the meeting. I think it's thanks to Mash, I have some link that I can go chase down. With that said, welcome everyone. I think there's been quite some interest in deep unsupervised learning. What I thought I would do today is after a quick round of introductions and just if people want to take 30 seconds to a minute to just give their interest in the subject and what they hope to get out of the course and their background is relevant and if they want to share. I just wanted to take you to the link and then take you through the various material that's available, and then also share a few thoughts on having gone through the introduction as well as just the first lecture. I thought of a few ways that we can conduct the study group sessions that I thought would be useful, learning from what other people have been doing as well. So without too much else, let's get into it. I'll kick it off by saying my name is Srinivas. I'll be the host and study group lead for this particular group. I've done this for TWIML for the Kaggle team as well as the FastAI2 library study groups. And I'm interested in this subject primarily because it seems to be the next kind of frontier beyond supervised learning in text, vision, tabular, and so on, and seems to be quite a thriving area in the last couple of years with a lot of potential applications that are occurring even as we speak, let alone when the course was taught, which was just last year. So that's about me. I'm not an expert in the subject and I'll be learning as we go along. So one of the requests, and I'll be making this request multiple times, is if you have familiarity with the subject and would like to sign up to host or co-host a study session, that would be really great because A, you'll quickly tire of hearing of just my voice, and also I think getting explanations from people who are using it, who are much more, who have much more expertise than me on the subject would, I think, enhance all our learning. So with that, anybody else want to unmute themselves and share their interest or motivation for the course and anything else relevant and applicable, please go ahead.
I can go. Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm in the fortunate situation of having tons of data in my current employer. Unfortunately, data by itself is not enough. You need resources to label it, and we don't have the kind of resources we would like to do it at the scale we would want. So that is my main interest in doing the unsupervised part. Mostly, I'm interested in the self-supervised aspect of the unsupervised learning. So that was my introduction. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Thanks, Vijay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go next.
Go for it, Matt.
Thank you, Srinivas, for putting this class and study group together. I really appreciate it, and something I'm looking forward to. And happy to also jump in and be more active and help lead some of the sessions. My background, I've been fortunate enough over the last 10 years or so to have worked on some pretty interesting real world, as a management consultant, real world machine learning engagements. Most of them were very successful and deployed and still in production. So I do have access, and it covers a lot of different subject areas in industry spaces. I am currently, having just left working for one of the big 4 firms, taking some time and working independently on a couple of different projects, one in healthcare. And as an independent researcher through MIT, I have access to pretty large real world data sets and trying to come up with meaningful use cases that help drive outcomes, as well as another engagement with potentially with one of the large law firms to build upon some previous work that I've done around natural language processing, where we're working with documents and structured documents with fairly unstructured semantic elements, legal documents and financial documents, which can have, are complex as they are, to be able to process them and recommend changes and so on. So looking at the material for this course, again, I am not an expert by any means either. I believe, and I'm hoping that exposure to this, the material that we're going to cover, as well as, learning from everybody here, from their experience and so on, will assist in sort of moving, just moving the ball forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Mesh.
So I guess I can go next. My name's Arshad, and I'm not an expert either. I've only really been working in NLP for about 2.5, 3 years. So my primary interest is actually applying AI to sales. And it sort of covers all aspects, including topic modeling, text generation, and kind of chatbots and things like that. So my primary interest in this area is really because a lot of the data that I'm getting is very noisy. It's not sort of labeled. So anything related to unsupervised or semi-supervised is something I'm very interested in. And obviously Jan LeCun's kind of, sort of, he's been talking about this for quite a while, and I'm quite inspired by his kind of research program. So yeah, wanting to find out more about this area and looking to read papers. So yeah, that's why I've joined this. That's me.
Thanks, Arshad.
Yep, I can go next. Hi, I'm Sai. So currently I'm working as a machine learning engineer in a like healthcare NLP space. We deal with doctor-patient conversation. We do like ASR, then information extraction, summarization, classification, and everything. So prior to this, I did like masters in robotics, and I have taken similar course like 3-4 years ago, which deals with unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. My motivation to take this course is just to like stay updated, a lot of new techniques, and actually in those courses, GANs weren't like a thing at that time, so that's like a new topic for me as well. Yeah, I want to take something formal, so that's my motivation to take this course.
Great, thanks, Sai.
I can go next.
Go for it.
Okay.
How do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, that's right. My name is Majin. I'm a software engineer. Currently, I just do mostly software and robotics. I don't do machine learning currently. So my reason for joining is to learn more about machine learning and AI and deep learning. I've only done courses. So, but what I hope to get out of this is to do projects, to do coding. And yeah, if you need someone to host hackathons or just code reviews or things like that, just more coding part of it, then I'd be more than happy to be part of it.
Great, thanks, Majin.
Hi, my name is Yuri. I think I know most of you from other groups. my interest, so I'm working with text data and a little bit with image data. And yeah, there I see that, unsupervised learning methods are used more and more. So I'm specifically interested in text data and satellite imagery, where unsupervised methods are just starting to be used. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuri.
I can go next. So I currently work as a machine learning engineer at a log and metrics analysis company. So we use logs and metrics to kind of troubleshoot, monitor, and optimize and gain insights into SaaS applications. And our business is mainly like enterprise. So like enterprise customers will buy a product to kind of optimize their and troubleshoot their own SaaS applications. And so I kind of like to think of log data as like almost unnatural language processing. It can have structure, it could be JSON, it could have non-structure. And so kind of using these unsupervised deep learning techniques are very valuable in situations where there's not a lot of structure, or the data may or may not be structured. Yeah, and that's my main interest in this course.
Fascinating. Thanks, Riley. Is Riley the way to pronounce your name?
Sorry, what was that?
Is Riley the correct pronunciation for your first name?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. Anybody else?
I can go on. My name is David. I am interested in different parts of deep learning, though I don't work in this area. I am more on the mobile and backend part. But I think it is nice to go on this course to see. I think this is more related to how we learn things. So we have levels when we ask, what is that? What is that? But I think this is interesting. So I am looking forward to learn from it.
Thanks, David.
I finally found the unmute button. Yes, can you hear me?
Cool. Yes, you can, Ryan.
Thanks. I use Teams all week, so it takes a while to find the right buttons here in this one, Zoom. Yeah, I'm a web application developer. We work mostly with GIS data, but every week I go to Boulder Data Science, and that's an informal version of pretty much what this course is. We've been doing a lot of unsupervised learning. And as somebody said, it costs a lot of money to create labeled data. So it's interesting to see how far you can go without cheating, basically, because, if the machine learning is really doing anything, you don't have to tell it everything. So I like to see how far things have progressed.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ryan. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Ben from the UK, and I'm currently an aerospace engineer with specialties in avionics and defense systems. I've got huge interests in machine learning and applied AI, and that's the kind of roles that I've moved into over the last few years, including unmanned aerial systems. I'm also studying towards my master's in AI as well. So I've got huge interests in unsupervised learning, and I think it's a hugely fascinating field with huge potential, especially with the vast stockpiles of unlabeled data that we've got everywhere. So definitely looking forward to studying this course.
Great, thanks, Ben. Fascinating.
think I can go next. I'm Saeed. I'm a PhD student working in robot planning. And I don't know much about unsupervised learning, so I'm interested to learn more. Of course, I'm more involved in the reinforcement learning study group, so I'm not quite sure whether I can catch up with this group much, but let's keep fingers crossed.
Yep, 4 hours Sunday morning.
Sorry, what's that?
No, I was saying 4 hours of your Sunday.
Yeah.
With reinforcement learning from 10 o'clock and this from 8. So.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hope you stay.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Anybody else? Don't be shy.
I'll go here. I work as a data engineer, and I don't have much real experience with supervised learning, and I don't have the chance to use this on my work. Unlucky, but I hope to learn enough to use it on the side.
Thanks, Al. Welcome. Okay, we're just doing a round of introduction. So anybody who's joined late, want to just introduce themselves and kind of express why or what they hope to get out, what's driving their interest in the course, that'd be great. Very brief.
Oh, hi, name's Tendu. Yeah, I work as an MLOps engineer. I don't really have much experience in unsupervised learning, which is why I'm taking the course anyways. Yeah, so I hope to learn with all of you, do very well. Thanks.
Thanks, Tendo. Welcome. Okay, quick call. Anybody else we haven't covered?
I guess I'll go ahead and go. So my name is Terrence Frideau. I am a data and database manager and engineer. Really a self-driven student of AI and ML with no current responsibilities of either. And this is one of the big three: supervised, unsupervised, as well as reinforcement learning. So I'm interested and looking forward to the course.
Great. Thanks, Terrence. Great. Yep.
I'll go here. My name is Manikandan Savanisan. I'm a software engineer who do specifically work on data-related products. So do a bit of machine learning and deep learning at work. Tendo actually introduced me to this course that it's happening today. So I'm actually working on identifying noisy data and specifically training in even when noisy labels are present. So specifically, self-supervised learning is of interest to me, and if that can be applied, for this particular problem. I do not have any experience with deep generative models though, so that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thanks, Mani. Welcome. Anybody else? Going once, twice. Okay, we'll let other people introduce themselves as they chime in. And one request I would have of everybody is, chime in and ask questions and/or clarify sometimes in chat, but even if not directly, I think don't hold back if something is not clear or requires further elaboration, feel free. And as Mash mentioned, we'll try our best collectively to figure it out. It's not, excuse me, always the case, at least definitely not the case with me. And barring few people who are they have already expressed their expertise in the subject, most of us are trying to learn. So asking the question, even if we do not have the answer, I think if somebody else, Terence mentioned, I think a lot of self-motivated people, so we can go use resources to figure out the answer and share it. So I think in that sense, yeah, by asking the questions, you'll actually not just be helping yourself, but helping a lot of people who have the same question, but who aren't asking it. So, and those of us who will chase down the answer as well, we benefit by learning something in the process. So feel free to chime in. And in that spirit, I think Yuri asked a question in the chat. I'll share a quick non-answer answer. He asked, hey, how did you pick this course compared to even some of the other ones which might have shown up later? The simple answer is this course has been on my radar screen for a while, but I was busy already doing, as I mentioned, a couple of other study groups. So I didn't feel I had the bandwidth to do 3 of them. And once one of them ended, then I kind of posted. I did not, in all honesty, do a survey and see whether there were any more recent, better courses. And, you know, I think once we go through this material, if there are, as we have done in other study group sessions, we have covered multiple versions of the Fast AI. We've covered the Stanford deep learning NLP course a couple of times. And we're also going through, I think Gautam is the host for the deep learning PyTorch-based NYU course, which goes over many of the supervised learning material, but introducing new stuff with each revision of the course or each perspective and instructor and professor who teaches those courses of supervised learning. So similarly, I think I'm sure this area will have many more courses in the future and maybe even better ones than this. And if so, we'll just move along and hopefully this will serve as a good foundation for those courses. Did I answer your question, Yuri?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was trying to like see if there like kind of if there's a body of people that tried taking this course online, but I didn't see many references. I think few people like created repositories as they were taking this course, but yeah, I haven't seen anybody taking it offline after.
Yeah, so that's a good segue to, you know, what I wanted to do. As I said, the second part of the agenda that I wanted to share was kind of point you to the course material and some of my thoughts on what I believe would be the best way to go through it, but I'm open to suggestions and also in discussion currently. And some of it, I think we'll just have to try, and if something doesn't work, then we, you know, for majority of us, then we just change it and take a different approach. So with that said, let me share my screen with you all. Let me know when you can see it.
We can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So this is the website that, and I posted the link, I believe, in the Slack channel. So I'll start off by saying to Yuri's comment, the course is pretty intense. I just even, you know, the introduction is gentle and, you know, just talks about the potential application areas and even not in great depth, but just introduces you to the various aspects of unsupervised learning. But I spent some time watching a couple of lectures, and they are really intense. Intense in the sense that if I were to compare these to other courses that that I've been part of, including, for example, going to the hands-on machine learning book or the various revisions of the FastAI course that Jeremy has taught. I believe this is more, in my personal experience, this is more demanding, and also the concepts are require in-depth understanding, quite a bit of math as well as programming experience, not all to grasp the concepts, but to kind of really understand the material. So, keep that in mind, and that might be part of the reason that, there's not too much perfect reference, because it's demanding of you that you pay the attention and, really try to grapple with the material. This is, and somebody else who I also respect the person's capabilities quite a bit, he made the comment that, he had to watch certain lectures well into the course at 0.5 or 0.75 the speed, when he typically watches most lectures at 1.5 speed setting, because they were so dense. There's so much material coming at you fast. So with that as the background, let me just go through what all is available, and then share my thoughts as to how I thought we could potentially go about tackling the material. So the first thing is that all of these lectures, and there are, as you can see on my screen, about 12 lectures are available on YouTube. So, if you use this link, you can just click on YouTube and go to each one of these lectures. Barring the first lecture, every one of the others is nearly 2.5 hours long, 2+ hours, sometimes going up to 2 hours, 20 minutes or so. And he typically has a break in the middle where they are pizza, since they haven't come up with an innovation where Zoom can deliver pizza remotely. I think that part of it we'll skip, but I have some thoughts as to how best to tackle that. But let's go through what else is available. Of course, the relevant backup slides to each of the presentation, whether in PDF or Google Slides, is also available at the link that you can click and follow along as the professor or the TA is present, and you can watch the video on YouTube. The couple of other related material to this, which I thought was among the reasons, Yuri, that I actually liked the course. And again, I haven't gone through all of it. I just looked at, for example, the autoregressive model lecture. Is there are also Colab notebooks available that they've themselves provided. And that's very handy, because it's not just theory and concepts, but it's also practical code that we get to stare at. And I thought that would be very useful, because sometimes while theory is helpful, the details are buried in the code, and the code is provided through the Colab. And the other thing I really liked is there's no setup, and how do you go about setting your Python environment and PyVenv, and a lot of it, which often, at least for me, acts as a barrier into really getting going. That takes more weeks to do and get right than getting into the meat of the course. The fact that they have it on Colab makes that a very pain-free process. The other thing which I liked, and it's also relevant to the course, is the assigned homework. There are just 4 of them, but the homeworks are essentially coding the techniques that they are discussing, or the professor is discussing in the course. The other, so that's this link, the first link, the homework. Again, the thing I also appreciate is they have provided what's the best solution that they wrote up for these homework. So again, an attempt at code, if you will, and the solutions which can serve as a reference for us. So I think this is all the material, that is the lectures, related slides, the Colab notebooks, which provide details of the implementation that they discuss, And then homework, which again, I think is attempt to implement or assignment to implement the models that are discussed in these lectures, and then reference solutions once you have attempted it and have kind of struggled with it for a while, then, how did they feel they could solve it? So that's the totality of the material that's available and that we hope to cover. So with that in mind, what then I wanted to share is the what I prepared as give me a minute. I put together a tentative schedule of what it would take for us to go through and cover all of the material that we have, and I'll post it. So here's a tentative schedule that I put together. And, if we only have time to cover the orientation, we can cover the introduction next week. What the first request I have of people is I will post this as part of the Slack channel, probably in the topic. I'd really appreciate people signing up as hosts, given the nature of the topics and so on, and the density that I referred to. I really would encourage people to team up and possibly have a co-host who can take over or even cover portions of the subject material. The subject material itself, I want, at least my idea was the following, and I'm open to feedback. Given the density and the duration that I talked about, each of these lectures, as I referred to on video, is 2 hours plus long. So what I was thinking is the following, that we split it up into 2 portions. Kind of, there's a natural break in the lecture because he breaks for pizza about 2 hours into the lecture and then goes on for another 2 hours, I believe, or an hour and a half each side of the break. So what my thinking, given the density of the material, is to split the lectures similarly into 2 sessions for us, each of them where we cover in a week. So the first week of, let's say, the actual subject material, we cover part 1 of 2 of the autoregressive model. So this would be most of the material before the break. And again, the break can be used as just kind of a reference point. If you think in order to finish up the material, you need to go 15 minutes past the break, that's fine. The intent being that we use 2 weeks to cover a single lecture, given how long these YouTube lectures are. And then we spend a week on the homework, and that week is just discussing potentially how collectively we think we should attempt to do the homework. So this is, again, my thought that we should, much as we do in the Kaggle team and stuff, is struggling with what is assigned is the best way to motivate us to really learn, even if solutions are revealed later. So that's the intent of putting the homework here. And it's my understanding, as I said, I haven't gone through all of the material myself, but then we use the 4th week of every group of lectures to look at the Colab notebook that has been provided. And the intent here is, it's again my understanding that the Colab notebook covers a lot of the implementations of the methods that are discussed. So, and the homework is typically implementing some of the methods that are discussed here. So that would give us a kind of nice wrap up in code of what has been covered in the video lectures. So as you can see, that essentially means it'll take us a month, that's 4 weeks of sessions, to go through each of the topics that are there in the lectures. That's at least my thinking, and let me mention one other thing that I thought of, and which few people, starting with Joseph and even Mash and his partner, are implementing in different courses. So this other thought I had is that we have 2 hours that I reserved from 8 to 10 Pacific time. So my thinking is that, instead of assuming that people have watched the lectures before they come and join the class, I know all of us are busy and do a variety of things during the week, and this is not high on most people's priority list. Therefore, my thinking was that we could potentially join, and given we've gone through the introductions and so on, within the first few minutes, start off by watching and possibly at like 1.25 speed the portion of the autoregressive models that the host or co-host would suggest we watch up to. And if you typically watch at 1.25 speed of a 60-minute, 75-minute lecture, that ought to fit between 45 minutes to an hour. So the first hour we spend on just watching the video ourselves in class, so to speak. And then the 9 to 10 hour we use to discuss the material and hit the key points that need to be conveyed. We don't need to go through the material slide by slide, but any questions, key aspects that are unclear, what needs to be taken away from the lecture, and focus on that discussion. That, in my opinion, and I solicit feedback on my model, as well as the idea to just spend the first hour listening to the video in class versus assuming people have covered it. The other benefit I feel is then the material is fresh in our mind as we get into the discussions, rather than having watched it maybe even several days ago. And given the multitude of things everybody's engaged in, it's hard to recall what the questions were or what the issues are. Whereas if you just watched it at that short while back, that would be fresh. So with that said, I would really like to get feedback as to what people think about it. And again, let me pitch. I would solicit everybody's help in kind of volunteering to lead and host the study group for the topics. If you're familiar with the coding, as somebody mentioned, you're a software engineer and can take us through the code, given the background in the lectures, sign up for the code and the code portions, whether it is the homework or the collab stuff. Ideally, it would be great if the same group or a couple of people take us through each of the 4 parts of the topic. Any thoughts, feedback, comments?
Let me add to what Srinivas said. This is a PhD level course. It's not one of those courses where we can just watch and sit back and be what, edutainment, so to speak. We've got to be fully engaged, like as if we were taking the class, taking notes actively, on paper, on screen, or whatever, and actually trying out the different models, going slow, repeating the lectures, playing it slower, and so on. So the challenge is always going to be making the time to do this on top of the rest of our lives. But if we do, and the way Srinivas has laid it out, we're not doing one full course in a burst in less than a week, as the actual students who were in the class probably had to do. We're splitting it over 3-4 weeks. So that should be enough time if we just plan accordingly. At least I hope I can plan accordingly and really do this earnestly. So I'll just say that and leave it there.
Thanks, Mash. Any other comment, guys? Do you care? Do you think it's better to assume people would have watched it and then just use the 2 hours to discuss? Or do you think this model of, spending the first hour just watching it and then getting into the, and we'll bound the time to 45 minutes to an hour, even if people haven't gotten through it, because we benefit obviously the most by the discussions, and I don't want to take that away. But at the same time, I felt it would be better if we watched just before we discuss. Sorry, Sujit, you were about to say something.
No, I actually, I initially had a little bit of reservation because I like the inverted classroom model, where people, watch the video and then come back and spend only on discussion. But Mash pointed out something very, very valid. It is a hard course. And I think taking it slow is actually a much more pragmatic decision. So I think I'm with you.
Great, thanks. And as I said, I would like to try it. The other comment I would make is I'd like to try it. If something isn't working, I'm not tied to any model. I'm, more focused on the end result of learning the most. So if we need to take it slower, faster, I'm all for it. And if we, as Joseph has done multiple times in his courses and stuff, if it, instead of 4 weeks, it takes us 8 weeks to get through some difficult material, we need not be tied to the schedule. There's just a tentative schedule I put together. And this itself, if you see, takes us, not that far, takes us to the end or middle of December, given, the amount of material we have to get through. So, and the holidays thrown in. So I kind of thought that taking it slow and taking it piece by piece and working through would help, and along with spending the time on watching it in class rather than assuming, or at least providing the time to watch in class. If you watched it before and just want to catch the discussion, that's fine as well. But getting time to just look at it before we get into the discussion, I thought would help people who haven't had time otherwise during the week. So any others, any thoughts or comments? Of course, until we try, we won't know whether this works, but any opinions to share or thoughts to share based on your experience from other courses? Anyone else?
Should someone do a presentation or something like that for the before we watch the video? Maybe that would be like a good summary or.
Typically, the thing that happens, Majin, is the host and course. The host primarily takes the lead in kind of giving a summary and or taking us through what are the relevant portions of what we have watched at the end rather than at the beginning. But if somebody wants to kind of prepare a slide or two, because the slides are already there, so I don't want the host to feel obligated to prepare more material as much as be the guide to the rest of us to take us through the material and kind of point out what's relevant. They may even be, as I've done in the past several times, be able to explain some of it and also share with us what are the questions that are unclear to them, and others can chime in and help clarify those questions. So my thoughts are it's to a certain extent better served after we have all watched the video and have questions, and then using the material. If they are so inclined to provide a summary slide, that'd be great too, but it's not a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
lot of people are being awfully quiet. Any comments or thoughts that anybody else has on this?
So I wanted to ask if anybody has specific, I mean, it's a lot of different things here, right? So if there's anything specific people wanted to learn, like it's autoregressive, GAN, reinforcement learning. I don't know what half of the other things are, but if there's like people, there's specific interest on specific data set that anyone's interested in.
Yeah, they can, I mean, as I said, it's open to sign up. Sorry, go ahead, Arish.
So I specifically took this course just because I wanted to learn flow models. So I worked on an independent study where I implemented a VAE in a probabilistic setting, and there normalizing flows and flow models were touted as a solution for like computing the posterior pretty accurately in an image setting as well. So I was more interested in flow models, and the math when I started to learn, it was slightly difficult. So going over with in a group setting, I thought it would be beneficial for me.
Yep, no, I totally agree. Any one of these topics, I think, is going to be a lot coming at us, and and I'm glad to have somebody who has gone through it even once, because I totally anticipate, even after having gone through the course, to have to go back to the material, as I've done with the Fast AI courses, to really grasp. And each time you go through it, it kind of reveals aspects of the problem or learning that you didn't quite get the first time through. So yeah, it'd be great to, and again, I'd solicit, even though you said, you still are taking it for that reason, but you can be the guide to us for the flow models if you are so inclined and can sign up as a host. And so
sure. Yep.
So I'll post this on the Slack channel, as well as potentially add it to the top, if you will, of the Slack channels. And that, is what I wanted to cover in this session. And before we move on, again, since this is my thoughts, as I said, I'm open to change, feedback, and if you have thoughts, feel free to share. Don't hold back. Welcome, David. We're just kind of going through the agenda. You can, I'll be posting the recording. We spent the first half hour just introducing ourselves, and then just looking at how we are going to go about dividing and conquering the topics for this course. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, notice that one of the week is just language models. I mean, that's a pretty big thing, right?
Yes, and it's actually a guest lecture by, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a guy from Facebook, but I could be wrong. It's
OpenAI,
a guest lecture, and again, OpenAI, yes. And it's just spread. It's again a 2 hour, 20 minutes lecture on video. So that's been split, if you will, into 2 parts. And again, keep in mind, as Matt pointed out, that this course is, they in fact at Berkeley make you sign up and check whether you have and allow people in, as you will learn if you listen to the first 20 parts of the introduction. There's a huge waiting list, and people are let in depending on what experience and expertise they already have. So with that in mind, Majin, the issue is this particular talk about language models is not going to cover, in my expectation, as introduction to language models. It's more of unsupervised and self-supervised techniques and their relevance to language models. That's why I don't believe this lecture you will get everything about language models in just the 2 hours. It's more like assuming you already know all the basics of language models. How does self-supervised and unsupervised learning apply in the world of language models? And they touch on it, in fact, in many other portions of the course as well.
Okay. Is the last one, the representation learning and reinforcement, is that also like guest lecture or? Oh, actually,
I believe, I don't believe so. In fact, Peter Abil, and you can kind of listen to him being interviewed by Sam. I think he has done at least 2 interviews that I know of. Sam has. Sam being, the host of TWIML, This Week in Machine Learning podcast. And he has interviewed Peter twice. And Peter is, in fact, my understanding, is as well known in the reinforcement learning domain as he is, or even more so in the reinforcement learning domain and robotics and doing research in those domains than necessarily in self-supervised, unsupervised learning domain. So, I think this again will just be how is representation learning applied or relevant in reinforcement learning? Not, and by the way, if you're interested in reinforcement learning itself, as Saeed mentioned, there is a session hosted and study group led by Joseph. Starts at 10 a.m. Sundays, Pacific, and they're going through, and again, this is, I believe, the second work through of a reinforcement learning study group. One of it happened already last year, and this is the second go through. So I wouldn't be surprised if this course or variations to Yuri's comment of self-supervised, deep unsupervised learning happens in the future as part of TWIML study groups. So hopefully this is the first of many to come.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have to check out the reinforcement learning one. I don't know how far.
That's right after.
Oh, right after. Okay.
I think it's been about a month or so.
Okay.
So that since we started, I believe if Joseph or somebody else who attends that can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you can probably try the next time it comes around because it's already a month.
Okay.
I think it's only been. I'm sorry. Sorry, this is Joseph. Yeah, I think this is the 3rd meeting today.
Oh, okay. So it's not been.
Maybe
that
I'm
long
wrong. Let's see. Maybe it's the 4th meeting.
It's the 4th.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it about a month or so.
We're doing chapter 3, I think, today.
I was just looking at your Srinivas, the implicit model / GANs. So they've got 2 lectures on YouTube, and then there's a homework that includes implicit and GANs. You've got a separate GANs lecture. Is that something else?
No, I just labeled it that way since I wanted to distinguish. I mean, I could have labeled it implicit models, part 1 of 2, 2 of 2, 3 of actually 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4. So it's the same thing, except from what I saw, only the first part had homework and collab. If we look at this guy.
Yeah, the description said it was both in the homework section. It's a GANs / that's correct. You're correct. This is more my labeling. I made the first implicit models and the second GANs, but it's a continuation of the whole thing, except this did not have collab or homework and this part did. So I just stuck the homework and collab here and called this second part GANs. That's it. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's just this continued. I just split it down as, just called it GANs for the lecture's third and fourth part or the second lecture. Yeah, no, so it's not anything different. And these are links, so if you click on it, it'll take you to the relevant part. Okay. If nothing else, again, just the kickoff. So we'll at least start slow before we start getting hit by the torrent of concepts and math and code that comes at us. So, again, if people are so inclined, I'm open to it. We could spend the next hour quickly going and watching the introduction ourselves. It will, I think it's an hour long. So if we keep it to 45 minutes, maybe discuss 15 minutes, we gain a week from it if people are so inclined. Or if you would rather start off with the introduction next week, which again, we can watch the video and discuss. It should not take us the full 2 hours. We can do that. Allowing us some time for people to sign up to be the host and watch the autoregressive models and provide, adequate help as we go through the rest of it. That's the reason I put the introduction as our next week task, more because it will allow people the time that I think is necessary to watch these videos and become, and sign up to be the host. So is that okay with people? And we can just spend one thought I had with respect to the introduction. If people are, again, something that I thought would be fun would be, let's watch the introduction next week and also take as an assignment potentially to find out what are the applications of self-supervised, unsupervised learning that have been introduced recently that people are excited about. I just found something that was announced by folks just a couple of days back that I thought is really fascinating and has unsupervised learning and a couple of other techniques that really enables people to do something pretty amazing. But I'm sure there'll be a ton of these kinds of things that if you look, you will be able to find. So my request would be, if anybody wants to host the introduction, it's kind of the easiest of anything to follow. Feel free to sign up and we can just quickly spend the hour next week to watch it and spend more of the time kind of maybe with people sharing something about deep unsupervised or self or semi-supervised learning applications. And you can post that on Slack and share it as part of next week's discussion. Does that sound like a plan? That will also get you interested in looking at what are some of the, emerging or that have emerged applications from when even this course was taught, which was last spring in 2020.
Good. Yeah.
Right. So that would be I thought a creative assignment that we could do, post interesting applications that people can find on Slack channel, and then use this time after watching the introduction, which is just an hour long, so we should be done in 45 minutes. Spend the time, and as I said, the reason to do it slowly is also to allow time for people to prepare. Please do sign up as host and co-host. I'll post this later today. That ought to enable you both the time to sign up and the time to prepare for what is. And as I mentioned, feel free to sign up as a co-host and team up with people. Going through all 4 weeks of this stuff is pretty intense, but at the same time, very rewarding. I think you learn a lot by doing that. Okay, I don't want to take any more of your time today. Thanks for joining, everybody. It's been really heartening to see 24 attendees. Hopefully, we'll keep the interest and motivation to go through the rest as things get harder, because collectively, as Mash has said, we have more capabilities and we can tackle many more problems that way. Sorry, somebody, Sujit, were you going to say something?
No, I wasn't. Sorry.
Anyone else? If not, thanks a lot, everybody, for joining. That's it. And we'll meet next week and go through the introduction, and hopefully people will post a bunch of stuff that's fascinating about potential applications for this domain that they are fascinated by. Thanks everyone.
So much for
See
thanks
you
so
all
much
next
for
week.
organizing.
Yeah,
Srinivas.
yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joseph. See you, everyone. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.